Hi everyone, welcome to YSA's Gaining Momentum for Your GYSD Project webinar. We're staying warm broadcasting live from YSA at 15th and L Street in Washington, D.C. I want to thank all of you in advance for attending tonight's webinar. My name is Chris Wagner. I am the Director of Partnerships at YSA. After tonight, feel free to send me an email. There's also my Skype name here, and I'm also on Twitter. My background includes being a school teacher, a Peace Corps volunteer in Thailand, and AmeriCorps and a Vista alumni. The great thing about tonight is it's a group effort at YSA. We're all braving the snow. So I want to introduce Scott Gansky, YSA Senior Director of Education.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Winnie Nam, Director of Communications.
Hi, I'm on the Twitter handle.
And Sarah Wilson, Manager of Education.
Hi, welcome everyone.
If you have any questions during the webinar, check out the question box on the attendee panel. Feel free to ask your questions here and we'll get them answered through a text reply. We'll also save a couple of questions at the end of each presentation. And if you're a tweeter, we're using the hashtag GYSD tonight. You can also ask questions and provide answers, ideas, resources, or just want to say hi through the hashtag GYSD and @YouthService. Our team here in the office will also be tweeting. On your GoToWebinar attendee panel, there's also a cool handout box. Check it out. Anytime during the webinar, you can download any of these handouts. After the webinar, we'll also post a video to YouTube and send a link along with the PowerPoint slides to everyone who registered for the webinar. So why are we here? I created the slide today in honor of the snowstorm that is barreling its way to the East Coast tomorrow. The picture and title are perfect because January is a big month for us at YSA as we work with our grantees, partners, and everyone else in the lead up to GYSD. One of the first steps in planning for GYSD or any youth service project is recruiting partners. Partners can help you brainstorm a project, manage a project, share information about your project, donate cash or in-kind donations to your project, and recruit youth to participate in your project. One of our mantras at Youth Service America is don't do all the work yourself. Take time to think through what your needs are and who can help you with those needs. In regards to GYSD, one of our goals for everyone who participates is to either reconnect with your current partners or discover new partners in your community. The idea is to leverage GYSD to build your own capacity for the work that continues after GYSD in your community. But at the same time, while we like to say don't do all the work yourself, it does take work to find and engage new partners while also making sure your current partners are in the loop and well informed about your needs and how they're working with you. Our goal tonight is to provide 3 different perspectives when engaging partners. First, an organization, nonprofit, NGO level. Second, at a school level. And third, at a youth leader, activist level. We've learned from organizations, schools, and grantees that the time you put in now to think through your needs and identify potential partners, the more impact your GYSD or any youth service project will have in your community. Our first presenter tonight is Marlon Osgood, a 2015 YSA NCAM ambassador. Marlon is the co-founder and president of STEMS for Youth, a nonprofit in Cincinnati, Ohio. The mission of STEMS for Youth is to enrich the lives of all students by developing their potential to make a difference in the world through inspiring self-confidence, ambition, and a collaborative spirit. Marlon will share with us her perspective and experience as a nonprofit engaging and recruiting both volunteers and partners. Our next presenter is Dr. Maura, an assistant superintendent at Belmore Merrick Central High School in Long Island District in Long Island, New York. Recently, under Maura's leadership, one second. Sorry about that for the delay there. Again, it's snowing, so we're having a few little technical glitches here and there. The work Maura's done is great. The 6 schools, along with community partners, engaged almost 5,000 youth on MLK Day and packed over 700 school supply bags. Maura will be sharing her experience working with partners and stakeholders through the school's One Voice, One Message ambassador program. Our third presenter tonight is Bradley Ferguson. He's a founder of Post Crashers, a multi-year community-supported project that supports veterans at the Harvey D. Johnson American Legion Post in Northfield, New Jersey. Bradley will share his experience from a youth activist perspective in finding and engaging partners as he and his classmates refurbished the American Legion Post while also creating a community garden that yielded 500 pounds of vegetables last year for those in need. As you can see, we have an excellent panel with us tonight. Again, feel free to submit your questions in the attendee panel or through Twitter using hashtag GYSD. As I said in the introduction, Moreland will share with us her perspective as co-founder of the nonprofit STEMS for Youth. Moreland, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to start by giving you just a little background about myself. I'm a senior in high school in Cincinnati, Ohio right now, and I was an NCAM Youth Ambassador last year, and I'm heading the NCAM Mentoring Program this year. You've heard about STEMS for Youth, and one of the main goals of STEMS for Youth is we are youth mentoring youth to encourage learning and initiative. What started as 4 campers in a room has expanded to a national impact, and that's all happened through time, through effort, and through volunteers. And that's something that I'm going to talk to you about today, is the best ways that I've found to recruit and engage volunteers. Next slide, please. So before you can begin recruiting volunteers, you have to think about what types of volunteers you need and what they'll be doing. So the goal in any recruiting is keeping people engaged and having them return as long-term volunteers. I highly suggest you view every volunteer as a potential long-lasting one. To start recruiting, I suggest advertising at local schools and libraries and reaching out to community leaders. Engaging large groups is also helpful. So, for example, the National Honor Society at your local high school. I know mine is at least 200 people strong. That would give you a great base for whatever project you're trying to do. People are more likely to continue volunteering if you establish a relationship with them, send them thank you notes, update them on projects, and future opportunities to volunteer. I suggest reaching out to known interested contacts as well if you're having trouble. For example, for STEMS for Youth, I reached out to teachers and good candidates from them. I reached out to parties that I knew would be interested, made contact, and made sure it would be a good fit for both of us, because that's something that's definitely important. Most of the volunteers in my nonprofit are long-term volunteers and have been involved for years. And the hardest part is jumping that hurdle and getting those long-term volunteers, because once you get that, it's smooth sailing. You also need to think about the skill level of your volunteers and what they'll be doing. So if all you need is energetic volunteers that have a good work ethic and a great attitude, that's awesome. Recruiting from these large groups will be perfect. But if you need skilled volunteers that have technical knowledge or some other type of skill, then you have 2 different options for recruiting, in my opinion. You can get volunteers and train them for whatever skills they'll need, or you can purposely recruit from groups that you know will have these skills. So STEMS for Youth needed volunteers skilled in robotics, app design, game design. And when I began the recruiting process, I made the decision to go with the first option. So finding volunteers and training them, because sometimes that's easier than finding the volunteers that have the technical skills. Next slide, please. Recruiting and engaging volunteers is all about inspiring them to help. Many times people look for specific aspects in volunteering. There are certain factors that can make them more likely to volunteer. For example, having a straightforward project and goals are really helpful to a volunteer. They want to know exactly what to expect, so there isn't any uncertainty. They want to be well informed on what to do when they arrive on your project day, whether it be to check in with you before going to start on their role or something else. Whatever it is, they just want to know. I highly recommend sending out an email a couple of days beforehand, and I'm sure other people have suggested this as well, just detailing what volunteers should bring and where and what the schedule will look like so they know what to expect. Good communication is key, and it eliminates any frustration that volunteers may have. Volunteers also look for meaningful responsibilities. So put them in a particular role with given instructions, set instructions. Make sure to explain why their role is important. Some roles may seem less important than others, but they're all pertinent to making the project happen, making it a success. So explain why their job is so valued. For example, for STEMs for Youth, we have to sort robotics kits and keep track of the pieces that are going in each kit. Well, that can seem really boring and sometimes not as important as other jobs. But without these properly made kits, we can't effectively teach robotics to a class of 30 students. So it's explaining the importance of the project that's key to volunteers. Volunteers also want to see a direct impact. People volunteer to help the community. So it's easier to get them back when they see the tangible impact they've made. So I suggest setting a quantitative goal for the day or for your project to ensure that they can see the results. So for example, if you are doing a food drive, set a can goal so that people can tell at the end of the day that they've made an impact, that they've reached their goal. Or if you're doing a nature trail, set the goal of making the trail reach a certain distance every day so that it's clear that they're making progress. And then a lot of volunteers, the long-term volunteers, will look for long-term opportunities. Giving them long-term responsibilities within the project makes them feel more valuable and more included. So there's more to just a project than the actual event. Planning, recruiting, and advertising are all things that have to be done prior to the event day, but they're all crucial parts of the event. These are some long-term opportunities that volunteers can do if they want to get involved. You can also discuss making them a long-term volunteer. You can reach out every time an event is going to take place and invite them to participate. This would enable you to accumulate a steady list of volunteers that come and go depending on availability. So you don't have to continually recruit volunteers. You have a group that you can come and ask. I am ready to take questions whenever that would be a good time.
Hey, Moreland, Chris here. I wanted to ask this wonderful, great information. Can you maybe talk just a second about, this is a lot of upfront work, right? I mean, it takes time to set up these opportunities, to set up these volunteer roles, to, think through how do I explain how important this project is to the overall project. Can you just maybe comment a little bit about, what it takes personally to set up all this before the project and how important it is?
Yes, of course. Planning is crucial. It's the difference between having a hectic, stress-filled event day and having a smooth sailing one. There's always going to be technicalities that don't work out, but whether it be a bump in the road or a mountain that you have to climb depends on your planning and the prep you do up to the event day. So recruiting volunteers is a long process. That's something that you need to be aware of and start months out before the actual event day. So it's not something that you can do the week before. It's something that is gradual and takes time, especially when you're trying to work with other people to give them enough time to check their schedules, to work out what they can do, what they're doing.
It sounds like all of this is really crucial in order to turn that first-time volunteer into a long-term volunteer.
Yeah, and that's the main goal, because that short-term volunteer, that one time they volunteer, that's the pipeline to getting those consistent people that come back.
Very cool. Where did you learn how to do this? How did you? I mean, again, we've been doing we work on this at YSA. We learn from our grantees and our the youth leaders we meet. And so this reflects a lot of what some of the best practices that we're familiar with. How did you learn this? Are there resources you went to? Were there people that you talked to? Was it just kind of like common sense and thinking it through?
There was definitely, I had help from my own mentors that were very beneficial to my personal development and professional development. It's also a lot of trial and error.
Uh-huh.
So things don't always work out the right way the first time, but it's taking that, I wouldn't call it failure, it's taking that experience and learning from it.
Right.
So that's how I've gotten to this point, is learning from my experiences.
Very cool, very cool. Scott, we got a question come up?
Yeah, we have a great question from Ryan. Basically what he's saying here, it's a question I've heard quite a few times. Many times he will send out reminders to the youth that agreed to participate in an event, and they're not showing up. So he was wondering if you have any suggestions on ways that you can stop that from happening, ways that you can kind of guarantee or increase the number of youth that participate in the event.
That is an excellent question. That's a really hard one, because that is something that everybody experiences, is people will commit to doing something and they don't show up. And that's one of the hardest things with engaging other youth, is sometimes they don't always show up. I suggest going to people that you know are reliable. I don't know who these volunteers are, because it is really hard to get everybody to come that signed up, or maybe having more people sign up than you actually need, so that when that day comes, you'll have enough people. And if you have more, that's awesome. You can always find positions for them, would be my suggestion. But that's something that I've definitely had to tackle as well.
Right on. Cool. All right. Well, Moreland, many thanks for hanging out with us and sharing your experience. If anyone has any other questions for Moreland after the webinar, feel free to send me an email. And if that's okay with Moreland, I'd like to I'll forward them to you if that's cool.
Perfect. That'd be great. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. For our next speaker, is Dr. Maura is the Assistant Superintendent for Belmore Merrick School District, and she'll give us her perspective when it comes to working with partners. Can you hear me, Maura?
I'm here, yes.
All right. So we're on your first slide.
Hey, hello everyone. So happy to be with you this evening and be able to share about our program and the work that we've been doing with YSA, which has been so exciting for our district. We are Belmore Merrick Central High School District. We're made up of 4 high schools, 3 high schools and 1 alternative high school, and 2 middle schools. And we're on Long Island. We have 5,600 students altogether. And one voice, one message is really the vision of our superintendent, saying that each one of our buildings certainly has a personality, but we truly have one philosophy and we have one vision in bringing us all together. And that really has been the philosophy that we've been working all of our programs through. So the concept for the YSA grant and the program that we did for the Dr. Martin Luther King Service Day was born from the ambassadors, and the students chose the goals with the administrators and the leadership class teachers that we were working with. And we have a committee that's called actually the One Voice, One Message Committee, and it's been referred to as a think tank. We bring together our teachers and our administrators, and we have ambassadors in each one of our schools. The leadership class it is an elective class for juniors and seniors, but we have ambassadors that also volunteer, and they meet with our assistant principals of guidance. And in the middle schools, they're chosen by the assistant principals.
Go ahead. You're cool.
Okay. All right. So what we've done here is identify district needs, and the ambassador program was really born from the Dignity Act Committee here in New York State. We are mandated to have a committee, but it's much more than what the state has brought down. We have Dignity Act coordinators in each one of our buildings. One is a PPS person, so either social worker or a guidance counselor, and an assistant principal in each one of the buildings. And we come together. We talk about reporting and such, but from there, 3 years ago, we went to an Erase Racism conference, and I asked the committee members if they wanted to bring students. It was on a Saturday, and there was a wonderful speaker, Sergio Argueta. And we had some conflicts between our schools, mainly at sports events, and some of the divisions within our community are due to SES, and it's really been a very long-standing issue. So our superintendent said, you know, you have the mission to kind of bring that one voice, one message to our schools and unite schools. So the first step in that was when I was there, I actually brought my daughter with me. The kids said, we need to bring Sergio Argueta to our school. He was talking about issues of sensitivity, of acceptance, and he really focused on race, but he did touch upon religion, SES, and that was the introduction. So the kids said to me, you have to bring all the schools together. Now, there's nowhere in the district that we could bring 5,600 students together.
Right.
So I said, you know what, let's have a lunch, and we'll kind of strategize how we could do this. So we have about 3 buses that we own. So I did an inside field trip, kind of had lunch for these students, and brought together high schoolers that went, about 20 kids from the 4 buildings. And they said, let's target the 10th graders. And that's how it all begun. So we had an assembly program with all of the 10th graders. And from there, we started to identify the district needs, that we had to bring the kids together, and we kind of needed a common goal. And through events, that would bring our district together and would bring the kids together.
Okay.
That an assembly program wouldn't do it.
Okay. Very cool.
So, yes, and so the following year, we did have another assembly program for 10th graders, and we targeted 10th graders because 9th graders had a lot of programs through guidance, and we thought 10th graders, that's the year that there was a need to address so that problems wouldn't kind of escalate in 11th and 12th grade.
How did
So
you...
kids said, we need a title, and they called themselves ambassadors.
Very cool. Very cool. How did you get the kids, the students interested? How did you, it sounds like you turned it over to them and looked to them for leadership and kind of helping shape the program.
And that's what truly happened. Many of the students were in this leadership class. They happened to be kids that were in this class. And when we brought back the idea, a couple of social studies chairs were very interested. And they said, you know, let's follow up the assembly program with questions throughout social studies classes. You know, how do these issues affect our community? So the social studies teachers got involved. And if you look at one of my bullets, identifying needs and looking at the existing committee, and then taking ideas from each person. When somebody would come with an idea, it would kind of flow into the next one, and it was acknowledging people and making the next thing happen. And it just continued to grow. Now, I'm in an assistant superintendent's position, so I will say that kind of made it a little easier, you know, when the buses needed to bring the kids together, you know, going into a leadership class and so forth. But if you get the right administrators together, if you have a shared decision-making, a site-based team, I use the Dignity Act because for us, that was the issue in our district. That was the need. We said, you know what, the leadership classes are the place. The social studies chairs worked with the leadership classes, so it all started to fall into place.
Okay.
And then for the best practices, it was finding time to bring those kids together.
Sure.
So, we would take a chunk of time, 2 hours in the morning, and then we do an inside field trip in the afternoon, and maybe do one in December and then do one in the spring, so that they didn't come out of the same classes at the same time.
Awesome.
But it gave that time. We thought it was important enough for them to have that time to discuss those issues with the teachers that were involved, the administrators, and with myself, to say, what do we need to do? What's the assembly program going to address? What was the grade level we needed to address? What was our goal? And we always had an agenda when we went into that meeting.
Awesome.
So it wouldn't be a free-for-all. When you have that many kids, it's important to have that agenda.
Right.
And last year they said we have to have middle schoolers involved, and that's how the middle schools came into it this year. And that was a fabulous idea. So now we have 60 ambassadors district-wide. So when this YSA grant came in, that's how it was the entire district.
Hey, Maura, Sarah's got a question for you, I think, who you've worked with at YSA here.
Sure.
Hi, Maura. It's been such a pleasure working with you in Belmore Merrick. I have a question that I'm hoping you can help answer to bring some clarity for some of our other listeners. I know you acknowledge that sometimes you being an assistant superintendent, having that top-down leadership makes it a little bit easier to implement these types of programs district-wide.
And I'm going to say all the ideas came from, I don't want to say, but came from the schools to me. And the next bullet is I serve as a resource, a support, and a facilitator. This is not top-down at all, and I think that's why it works so well.
Yeah, so what advice could you give to a teacher or a student who comes up with this great idea but has concerns about approaching their principal or their superintendent for support? I know at some schools it's more difficult to get these programs off the ground. What advice could you give them if they want to approach someone like you or a principal?
To come up with a plan that's practical and realistic, to have the idea, but to make sure that the idea, like I said, fits into something, that fits into something that with the school's goal or with the need within the school, or that will be of service or helpful in some way. We had a very significant veterans project that was done, and it really fit into the curriculum at the beginning of the year in one of our high schools, and they put flags all in front of the school, and it was just beautiful, but it fit into Memorial Day, so it fit into the curriculum, and it was the idea of, I believe it came from kids, and they spoke to their social studies teachers, and it grew into the holiday, and it had to do with the curriculum, and it ended up being tremendously successful. So when an idea is sparked and you have a teacher that has an interest as well, and you come up with a plan, it could work if you just have that, a bit of a plan and it's connected to something.
Maura, I've got a similar type question. What advice would you give a nonprofit or, another organization that works with youth but wants to partner with your school, that wants to work with your school? It can be kind of intimidating sometimes for a nonprofit, or maybe they just don't know how to engage a school to, offer their services, which is something the school may want. Scott, you got something to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add, too, kind of a second part to that question, which is for your MLK Day planning, I know that you documented that very well and you invited a lot of people. Could you see an organization playing a role in that planning process at the beginning stage, and why was that important?
Well, I have a perfect example. Our Lions Club, they did a tremendous toy drive for the shelters in the neighboring communities. It was tremendous. We did wrapping for them. 350 toys worth. They came to our alternative high school, and in the hallway, one of our board members came to me and said, Maura, what are you doing for this project? And I said, one of the needs is, we're doing hats, gloves, we're filling the bags with pajamas and Metro cards. And she said, how do you get Metro cards? I said, you go and you buy them. And the next day she emailed me, we're going to purchase $1,000 of Metro cards for you. So a partnership is, you need to research what's happening around you, what kind of projects they're doing, and that partnership is, I was placing the gifts under their tree and wrapping for them, and, I couldn't be happier to do that for them. It was a Friday night, and, they are more than willing to do for you as well. So being aware of your community, and what projects are going on and what you could do for them. And again, and I even got a Lions t-shirt.
Awesome.
So you have to, I think that's where the partnership comes in.
I have one quick question that's coming in. This is the last question for you, Maura, and it talks about you've been stressing the need to say thank you, appreciation. Does that have to include money incentives, or can it just be a thank you?
So not at all. Appreciation and communication, and by communication I mean when you leave that meeting, every time something was going to affect, like the deliveries of those bags, and the pickups, and the first person I went to was my facilities director. I wanted to make sure my head custodians knew it. I did not want him to have any surprises ever. That was a lot of work.
Right.
And then, right away, those were my first thank yous. I wanted to make sure my directors were aware of everything that was happening in the building so that they didn't feel left out. Because the principals, knew everything that was going on. I CC'd them to everything that my One Voice and One Message Committee, all of their updates, I always CC'd the principals, so the principals were never out of the loop. And then I thought, you know what, my directors should know what's going on too, so they don't feel left out. And then they were always willing to help with everything, because they were always in the loop.
Awesome.
And then the thank yous in the hallway when you see someone, a little email, stopping by their office, that's what I mean by appreciation.
That always goes a long way.
Absolutely.
We found that too. I mean, if you take the time to plan it out, to say thank you, to really, and you have to take time to sincerely thank someone and recognize how they've contributed, and that goes a long way. Hey, Maura, thanks for taking some time out on your busy day. I know you're in New York, right?
I'm in New York.
Yeah,
New York.
So you're like us. You're getting ready for the snowstorm. So
yes, I am. But I truly want to thank you for that. We have grown and we have learned, and truly thank you so much for having me participate and for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you too. Okay. Take care. We'll be in contact later, okay?
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
All best. All right. We've got a study that we did a few years ago, and I'm going to let Scott Gansky take it from here.
Yeah, so you can see my cartoon there. That's, a lot of time that's the perspective that community partners, organizations have, is that the principal or superintendent is really not going to give you a chance. And a few years ago, we were preparing for one of our conferences, and we just started hearing, we did a survey actually for some of the community partners, and one of the things that they said was, how do you work with a school? It's intimidating, the principals. I'm trying to pitch my idea to principals, and they won't listen to me.
Right.
So what we did is we said, all right, we're going to go ahead and survey 50 principals in our network. So we went ahead, had a phone call with 50 different principals and talked to them about really what is your perspective on community partnerships. And it was the complete opposite. 94% of the principals that we talked to said that they really wanted to work with principals. And in fact, half of that 94% were a little bit concerned. They weren't sure how to work with organizations. So what we said is, okay, when you're working with a partner, an organization comes in, they approach you, and they come to your office. What is it that maybe doesn't make it work? What are those things that you're not looking for? And this is what they said. The majority of the principals said that someone from an organization will come in, and before they even get to know the principal, they just start to pitch their idea. They go straight into, you should do this program. You should try this curriculum. This will solve all of your needs. That's what they hear.
Right.
So I said, okay, I understand your concern to these principals. And I said, okay, well, what could they do differently? And the overwhelming majority of all of the principals said this. They said, if an organization or someone from anywhere comes and sits down with me, a partner, whatever it may be, just listen for a little bit. Ask me how things are going at the school, because you want to connect at that personal level and just find some synergy, find some ways that you can really strengthen each other, that you both benefit from it. Being a good listener, you have 2 ears for a reason. Being a good listener is the most important thing. And they said that that was what they found was the most successful strategy. Coming in, being calm, listening to the principal, and then from there finding connecting points that you could use the program or partnership.
Sounds like part of it too is like listening to what the principal's needs are.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
And then, you know, taking time to investigate that.
Right. And the truth is you're not going to solve all of their problems. Right. They're hearing this every day, not only from emails, they're getting calls, and everyone thinks that they've got the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is there's a lot of different ways that they're trying to approach it. They have a boss too.
Right.
And they have to make sure that they're doing what's best for their students.
And that principal isn't looking for you to solve all their problems. You know, they're looking, they understand you have a mission, you have what you can do, and you don't have to be everything to the school.
Right. There's several committees within the school. They have, you know, one of my suggestions is this. And no one ever does this, and I don't know why. Look at the school improvement plan. Look at the school improvement plan, because I guarantee you the majority of organizations that we work with at YSA, there's a way you can fit in. So do your due diligence in advance, look it up, look at their school improvement plan, because those are some ways that you can be prepared. You don't want to just come in. And what Maura said was right. She said, do your research. Come in. I heard it from a couple of people, actually. Do your research. Come in and know what kind of questions you're going to ask. I'm sure,
you know, a lot of people probably don't even know that a school has an improvement plan. So
exactly.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, and that's something, you know, at the end of the year, that survey that comes in, a lot of the times it's what kind of experience did the parents have at the front desk from what does the outside community look like? And if you can find ways to insert your specific program or your idea into it, there's a much better chance that you're going to be successful.
How cool to come into a principal's office and set up a meeting and to be able to say, I know in your improvement plan, this is what it shows.
Right.
Here's how we can help you do that.
Right, but don't do it right away. That's the problem.
Right.
You do that research and you're so excited to share it that you just want to throw everything at them. That approach doesn't work because it's overwhelming and it just feels like you're a salesman. And yes, you are trying to sell an idea, but you can do it at a one-to-one level where you're both going to benefit.
And truthfully, you need to know more about that than just the plan itself. I mean, get you started, but then you need to take the time to really talk to the principal, get to know he or she, and find out more details about what that issue is.
Right, and you have to be willing to make some modifications. You have to make changes to it. And you also have to look, sometimes they're very strategic principals, so they're going to look from a 30, 60,000 foot view on long-term solutions.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. So, our next presenter, but certainly not least, is Bradley Ferguson, who's going to share with us his perspective as a youth leader activist from recruiting and engaging volunteers. Hey, Bradley, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome.
Hi.
Go for it.
I'm Ferguson. I'm a freshman at Mainland Regional High School, Linwood, New Jersey. And my principal, about that cartoon you guys are talking about, my principal just became the superintendent.
Uh-huh.
So that's a plus for me. So now I don't have to worry about his boss.
It's good to have some inside track on the, you know, the top-down approach.
All right. So I created Post Crashers at American Legion Post 295. And the original mission was to assist veterans and feed those in need. But now we kind of also shifted towards, like, the post itself, is that we built a victory garden in the back to also just help others, since Atlantic City and Atlantic County isn't doing so well with everybody getting laid off and everything. So I wanted to help others with food in the garden. You can see, like, all the past projects from the last 2 years at the second link, the Tumblr link.
Okay.
So that shows all the recent history. Next slide, please. All right. Post Crashers, we had to pitch our ideas to our local businesses like Dunkin' Donuts, because at our crashes with all the people meeting up, we need food as well, because, you know, people always want food. And So we went to Dunkin' Donuts since I'm a fan of them. Dunkin' Donuts donates coffee for each post. 9 last year, 6 this year. One of our teachers who works on the project took a donation letter to this business, which is a handout, and Dunkin' Donuts, the manager agreed to donate to us. ACUA, they donated soil and delivers the soil. I asked our adult helpers and our superintendent who knew the head of ACUA, so we asked them for the donation using the donation letter. So it's always important to know people and have also connections that you might not have, as my superintendent had.
Great.
Peter Lumber, who's actually my neighbor, so that was also a plus. He donated wood for the raised beds in the back of the post crashers, and he delivered it. So I just knocked on his door and asked if he could donate them and followed up with a letter of the specific requests attached to it, and he agreed. M&M Landscaping, they helped move the soil for the beds last year and this year. Also, they're helping build the irrigation system for us, and my superintendent and the post commander knows the owners of M&M, so we asked for their help. We had PetSmart, and I like dogs a lot. So with the dogs, I went to PetSmart for our War Dogs grant, and I asked them if I could collect for the War Dogs and send overseas, and they agreed and set us up inside and helped us get started, and we actually raised a lot for the dogs, so that was really good. Also, the hardware stores, they donated paint for when we were renovating the post. They donate paint for the post, and I took a donation letter to all the hardware stores, and 2 of the 3 donated, so they helped us renovate and decorate the post to make it look a lot better. The local restaurants give us a discount on food. Pizza for our post crashers, like Dunkin' Donuts, they help us with the food, and soft pretzels for our crashes, so we're all fed well.
Great.
And yeah.
No, Bradley, what I love is that you've got several different types of people and organizations that you're asking. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts is a business. ACUA is, you had it. That's networking. Is working with the people that you know to find the contacts. Peter Lumber is just a neighbor. You wouldn't know unless you asked. So I think the big takeaway I'm taking from this is, you got to think creatively. There's a lot of different ways to connect with people.
And
Scott?
in the timing of this, there's a question right now. When you're reaching out to some of these businesses, some of these different places, who's the right person to contact? We know there's, do you go to the manager? Do you go to somewhere else? Do you have any suggestions?
How do you find that out?
Yeah.
So I went to the manager of Dunkin' Donuts and asked him personally, and he was actually really excited about the whole idea, and he jumped right on it and said, yeah, I can donate the donuts for you guys when you're working and some hot chocolate. And we also did a film there to kind of give them recognition about what they did for us.
How did you recognize them again, Bradley?
Oh, we did a film.
You did a film. What do you mean?
Like a video, a little skit of
cool,
just including them and showing that they're helping.
How did you share that with the public then? Did you put it on your Tumblr site?
No, I used the school website and also the Tumblr. I just uploaded on the school website so everyone can see the local Dunkin' Donuts. They're helping a lot, and they're not only selling great donuts, but they're also helping people.
Very cool, very cool.
So you'd say then, another follow-up to that, so not just picking up the phone and calling, it's much better to actually go there in person and be prepared to ask exactly what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Great.
All right.
It's always good to show them that you could go in person and it gives them a better idea of what you're presenting instead of just picking up the phone and asking them. It's always good to just talk to them in person.
All right.
Excellent.
You want me to go to the next slide, Bradley?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. So when we have to find partners and get funding, like the grants, you have to find partners. You have to have a pitch for people. When they ask you why do you need this funding, like an example is that I'm fighting poverty. Pay attention. Like I pay attention to the city, the country, demographics. You have to know the country or city poverty rate. The percentage of free and reduced lunch, budget issues with the city, county, and foreclosures, etc. You definitely need to have dates on the action, like when you're gonna have the post crashes, like I do. You have to tell them in advance, and you have to show them that you have a whole schedule and you're ready, so it looks more professional. You have to be specific who this helps with and who will participate. You have to let them know who exactly you're helping and what you're guided towards and how many people and who will participate for you. For the what, you have to describe your goals and objectives in detail. You have to let them know what you're doing. Like, I like to go, if I'm going to meet them in person, I go with a letter, like outlining the plans and everything that I'm going to do. Wherever you're heading towards, it's whichever place. How is explain how these partners will enhance your project. It's like how they, it's pretty self-explanatory. Next slide, please. These are examples of grants that we got. Opal Apple, Generation On. Some of them are for just gardening, like Opal Apple, Katie's Crops, Whole Kids Foundation. The target is just for school trips. Home Depot supports veterans. The rest are for community service projects. I've raised over $23,000 for post-graduate projects that are now in like 5 locations, 3 schools, the American Legion Post 295, and the Veterans Park. And this should grow with 2 new grants that we will award with GYSD.
Great. Awesome.
Next slide, please. Okay. So expand your project with other groups. The expansion through pitching through multiple schools, for example. My mom works at a school, New Road School. I recently graduated from 8th grade in Northfield Community School, and now I'm in Mainland Regional High School. So that opens up 2 more schools. I can always go back, or I do go back to Northfield and have plans with them. Like I just recently had a Opal Apple grant that funded a hydroponic greenhouse for Northfield, and I work with a 7th grade social studies teacher who was really the person that wanted the Veterans Park, which is the location I have. And he organizes the post-crasher volunteers, like in his class. He hands out flyers and permission slip to the people that want to volunteer. So he's a huge help to ask all the students if they want to go. At Mainland, I work closely with the principal I was talking about earlier. He signs all the grants that I write, and he's always ready for it. Like he's a really big supporter and cares about what I'm doing. And I joined the Key Club grant, or the Key Club. And these 2 clubs have over 150 active members who can volunteer for post-crasher events. So that opens up a lot more opportunities for me to bring in people. So the Key Club is sponsored by Juanis, who I got a $1,500 grant from. Post Crashers and the Key Club are building a fence and more garden beds for the post with that $1,500. But I also organize my stuff just with the Key Club, like food drive and dropping off bags through a neighborhood grid and picking them up to take them to the food bank. We have a goal of 50,000 of food in the next 2 years.
Hey Bradley, we're needing to kind of wrap up here too. I don't want to hurry you, but Scott's got a good question for you too.
Yeah, just a quick question here from some of the listeners. Where are you finding all these grants? Is this something that you're doing a Google News search? Do you have an online kind of like an email that comes through? Where are you finding these?
The YSA Generation on their websites, they link me to grants that, like, they give me grants that would help me, that they would figure that would help me. So I'm getting a bunch of grants from them.
Great, thank you.
Cool. One thing I wanted to definitely share with everyone on the webinar is look at the Handouts section on your attendee panel. Bradley's got some great resources there for you to check out. He's got an example of the GYSD mini grant he's using. The thing I love is definitely check out his partner donation, Ask to Ronnie's Garden Center. This is a great example of being specific in what your needs are. He provides pictures. It's like taking all the stuff I've been talking about for 3 years with organizations, except you can see it. Andy's a freshman in high school. Andy's raised over $23,000. So, Bradley, you're remember me in 10 years when you're because I want to be your friend. And then also the big one here too is he's got a thank you letter. So again, Bradley, thanks for being on. Keep up the good work. We're pleased to have you as a grantee. And thanks for taking time out of your evening tonight to hang out with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm pretty much done with all my slides. Thanks for inviting me. It's an honor.
Oh, very cool. It's our honor too. All right. All best. So what I'd like to do now is introduce Sarah Wilson, our Manager of Education.
Hi, everyone. So we're coming to a close here, so I just kind of want to wrap up with introducing one more handout that we have available through this webinar. I've heard Bradley and all of our panelists talk a lot about being specific with your pitch, and I think that's really important. That's a really important takeaway, because the more specific you are, the more primed your audience is going to be to say yes to whatever it is that you're needing of them. However, from personal experience and from my work with students and educators, I know that doing that ask is much more intimidating than people make it out to be. I think where we lose people is we're forgetting to engage our audience. We tell them a lot about our project, and that information is extremely important, but even more important is to make sure that they feel invested in what you're doing, so that they feel inclined to not only help once, but to continue coming back. And so we have a resource here. It's about telling your personal story. It's about taking the information that you have in your pitch and telling it in a way that's compelling, and it's going to connect your audience to your values and also to your project, so that they feel like they're a part of the work that you're doing. And the way that we're going to do this is in a 4-step process. The first part is the challenge. It is your critical question that drives your story. I think a lot of times people think of this as, what is the issue that you're trying to solve? But I want you to reframe that and think about not what it is that you're trying to do, but why are you doing it? Why is it important to you, and why should it be important to your listener? Think about their personal experiences, or if you're working with a school, what their mission or vision is for their students, or if you're working with a nonprofit organization, same thing, connecting it to what they're already doing. The next part in this process is the choice. What is it that you're going to do to solve this challenge that you've already said that you're going to address? The third part is the outcome. Obviously, you haven't done your project yet, but this is a good time to tell your audience about what your goals are and how you're going to work to solve this critical need. And the final part, once you've primed them with all this information and made them feel really invested in what you're doing, is to go ahead and make your ask. And before you do this, make sure you're thinking about what your audience abilities and passions are to make sure that you're asking them something that they're going to be able to deliver on and something that they're going to want to deliver on. So just a couple takeaways. Just remember that delivering a personal story or a pitch is not something that you can just do on the spot. This is something that most people take a lot of time and energy to practice. I recommend jotting down a few notes and then practicing it with a friend, but also making sure you keep in mind the context. Do you have 1 minute to sell a volunteer on your idea, or do you have 10 minutes to give a presentation about what you're doing? Make sure that you're practicing extracting details from your personal story while still getting those 4 key points across so that you're able to deliver your personal story even under the most extreme time constraints.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Last 2 slides, I'm going to run through these. This is our top 10 list. Number 1, find out your partner's needs. How is participating in GYSD going to help them? In turn, what are your GYSD project needs? How can your partners help you? Give them options. Number 3, be able to explain why you are passionate about your GYSD project in a quick, short presentation. 4, visit your potential and established partners at the office. It shows respect, cuts down on miscommunication, and it's harder for them to say no. 5, engage youth. Youth can write emails, visit partners, brainstorm new partners. They can do everything you can do, and a lot of time they do it better with a fresh take. And it's they can do all of the things that you can do, but better. Number 6, develop multiple opportunities of volunteers of most any age or skill level can participate in. 7, think through and strategize how to continue to utilize partners and deepen your collaboration after GYSD. 8, when working with schools, be sure to communicate with all the stakeholders, principals, directors, parents, PTA, other community organizations. 9, pitch your GYSD project to multiple potential partners, including businesses, government agencies, political offices, schools, other nonprofits, churches, and community leaders. And number 10, remember, 94% of school principals really do want to work with you. All right, I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us today. It is 8:01. We ended right when we promised to. Our next webinar is going to be Friday, February 18th, where we're going to talk about how to share your GYSD story with the world. What's the big picture, how to promote, and how to tell your story? Any last remarks, team, before we brave the snow and try to get home?
We will be posting this on YouTube, so check our Youth Service America YouTube channel, and we'll be posting it within the next 24 hours.
Everyone who registered for the webinar will be getting a link to the YouTube and a link to the PowerPoint slides.
And before you mark your calendar, we meant Thursday, February 18th. That's going to be Thursday, not Friday, February 18th.
Oh, man, that's my bad.
We'll edit that part out of the video.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're good.
Thanks again, guys. Stay warm. All peace.